Actually, I was on patrol with Sarasota Bay, and the call came out over the VHF radio. I heard a bunch of chatter, and it was broken, so I called the Coast Guard and asked them what they had, and they advised that a individual was thrown off of their vessel, and that vessel was still currently doing circles and unmanned.
Go into a little bit about how he was thrown off and kind of the impact that he took when he did that.
Yep. So there was 3 vessels that departed from Marina Jack. They were headed back to their home port. The operator that was on the smaller boat that got thrown off was behind a larger boat that had cut in front of him. While he was navigating that wake, he maybe had turned a little too hard and was actually thrown off of the vessel at that time. The vessel was going about 40 miles an hour when he got thrown out, and as he impacted the water, he had broken 2 fingers on his left hand, and obviously he was a little dazed by that. When he got his wits about him, he noticed that the boat was actually circling towards him, and according to him, passed within 5 feet of him, so almost getting struck by his own boat.
And no life jacket.
That's correct. I had spoken with him at the hospital. No life jacket and no emergency cutoff switch like I'm wearing here. These emergency cutoff switches are so important. If he would have been wearing one, none of this would have happened.
When you saw that boat going, what was in your mind?
The first thing was the speed that it was traveling and the location. It was right in the middle of the ICW, the Intercoastal Waterway. Heavy boat traffic, large motor yachts, there was barges, recreational vessels everywhere. So my first priority, I was on scene in about 5 minutes, was to just keep everybody away, try to warn them. People had no idea what was going on, you know.
So with all those other vessels that were in front of him or whatever, that nobody heard any screams for help. Nobody said, I think we have a man overboard. We need to go back.
Yeah, no, a lot of times when you're transiting like that, it's the sound of the motors and everything else. You're pretty much looking forward. So they did not have an idea that he was in trouble behind him.
Coming off of the disaster that we had Sunday evening in Clearwater, were you worried about what you were going to see out there? Did you have any fears about, please not let this be what we just experienced 24 hours ago?
That was definitely in the back of my mind. Also, which was more prevalent, was the incident with Ethan Isaacs down at the sailing squadron about 4 years ago.
It was about that, refresh us.
Yeah, that was another incident where no cutoff switch, and the vessel started doing circles, and Ethan was actually hit twice by the boat and succumbed to his injuries.
With the dynamics of this particular case, looking back, are you surprised that it wasn't a lot more catastrophic than when you saw and what you arrived at?
Yeah, and initially, sure, because all I could see was that boat circling and hitting another vessel that had no clue of what was going on at the time. When you see a boat like that, nobody really stops to see if it's unmanned or not, but it was a very dangerous situation there in the beginning.
What could have happened?
Well, that vessel traveling 40 miles an hour by itself could have T-boned any of the many vessels that were transiting through the area.
That mileage there, is that something out of the ordinary? Is that a normal speed? Because we're having, when we're looking at it, it's really going fast. Is that a normal rate of speed?
Yeah, 40 miles an hour when you're going a straight in line, very common. But when that thing's doing tight circles, that puts a lot of different characteristics to the way that vessel operates. And
speak to the importance of, and you just did that cutoff switch, but how prevalent is this that boaters you guys come across don't have that?
Yeah, unfortunately, this is not an isolated incident. This happens a lot, too much. And unfortunately for local and state agencies, we are unable to enforce when they're not wearing it. That's a federal law. Coast Guard can write them, but us being out there and seeing it all the time, we educate, and that's about all we can do.
How challenging is it that you can't do anything with regards to that kill switch issue? And then also, in addition to that, what is not getting across to boaters? I mean, we have these conversations all the time. What are they not getting?
Yeah, it's frustrating. I think a lot of them are old school thoughts where the lanyard Does get in the way. I used to wear a lanyard. They do get in the way when you're trying to steer. These wireless Bluetooth one, this one's made by Man Overboard. It's awesome. All you do is replace the battery once a month, and you don't have to worry about it. But if I fall in the water, if I get too far away from the helm, if I get it wet, it shuts off the motors immediately.
Is that like a one-size-fits-all? Is that one that would be universal with all kind of watercraft? If I went
Yes, sir.
Because I have no idea what this is.
Yep. So this bracelet hooks into a module on the center console, and it works through Bluetooth, and you just sync it once, and you're done.
This guy is lucky to be alive.
Absolutely.
What was his thoughts? Was he coherent? What was his state of mind when you recovered him from the water?
Right. So we didn't have anything to do with the recovery. That was a private vessel, and then he was transported over to Coast Guard. I didn't get a chance to talk to him until later at the hospital, and he was still pretty shook up about it.
Bottom line, I mean, what's the deal? Was he falling too close? You're in the wake of these other...
No, he was just in a smaller vessel, and a larger vessel, about 10 feet larger than his, caused that wake. And just, I don't know if it was inexperience or what happened, but he probably caught a chine, it's called, and just pitched the boat, and he got thrown out. And it happens just like that. It was a beautiful day. There was not a cloud in the sky, no wind, so these things happen whenever.
What was the process, the maneuver, like hopping onto that boat? We saw the body cam, you guys cheering afterwards. I mean, you had like one shot to get this, it seemed like.
Yeah, well,
actually we had 2 shots.
2 shots, yeah. The first time around, it was doing all of 40 miles an hour, and it was a little too risky, so we pulled away. Prior to that, we tried to foul the props using several tow lines. The boat was going so fast that it would just chop through the lines. And there's a jack plate that was on that vessel that was raised all the way up. So the motor was raised all the way up, and the props were just barely in the water, so it was hard to foul the props on that. But 2 weeks ago, myself and Officer Skinner just went to an EVOC school, which is an emergency vessel operations course put on by NASBLA. And we did exactly what was happening out there. We were in a straight line, but a lot of comments were saying that we were cowboys out there, this and that, but we actually do train just for scenarios like this.
Forgive me, so you're operating the boat. Who does the hop? Somebody had a beer.
Yes, sir.
Are you the hop?
And then,
I was the person that jumped,
Who did the hop?
and Mike was the person holding me. So,
Could you get in front of the microphone?
all right, move over, Mike. Yes.
State your name, spell it.
Lieutenant Bruce King, King.
So you're on the vessel. What is your role and what happened?
Well, I was actually at lunch when we got a call from Sergeant Frangione that said Ron needed some help. Ron is driving the boat by himself. He's multitasking. He's driving and trying to throw lines in the water, and this boat's doing 40 miles an hour. And at the same time, he's trying to keep other boaters out of the way. Because as he started to stress, his people had no idea this boat was not being driven by a person. And they would get awfully close to it when the other law enforcement agencies had to chase them out of the area. So we got a call. We left lunch. I called Juan and said, "Hey, I need you at the boat." He dragged Mike with him, and I was thankful to have both of them there. And then Sergeant Frangione jumped on the boat. So we went up there and initially assessed the situation. Ron had told us he had already thrown a bunch of lines in the water. We tried a couple more. It didn't work. And what's not on most of the videos is, as Ron said, we made an attempt. I pitched the idea, and Ron was in agreement, and the first attempt just wasn't right. I don't know if it was how we were lined up with it. I don't know if it was the speeds, but we're doing all kinds of calculations, and I stepped down off the gunnel and said, "Ron, let's throw a couple more lines." So we pulled away from the boat, resituated, tried a couple more times. I think one of the lines, I think probably thrown by Cito, was able to snag the prop. It slowed it down just a little bit, and that little bit was enough to say, let's try it again. The boat was doing circles. It was not doing a perfect circle, so it was migrating kind of in a northeast direction. It would have eventually hit somebody or someone. So we took our shot, and I wouldn't have done it with anybody else but Ron Dixon or Michael Skinner. Our 2 boat captains are very skilled. I've worked with them for a long time, and boat driving was the bulk of that. He put it up right where it needed to be. He gave me a shot, and I made the leap. As I said, Mike was holding me. Kind of funny. I said, "Hold me," and he put me in a bear hug and started squeezing the air out of me. And I was like, "Hey, you got to loosen up so I can jump." But he took his job seriously, and I appreciate you being there. So I made the leap, and the rest is on video.
What was going through your head when you were thinking before you jumped? I mean, what was it to make this?
Honestly, it's kind of amazing how quickly your mind works and how many calculations you do. The biggest thing I didn't want was to hit the wet deck and slip. You know, I knew that was a possibility, so my priority was to get a hold of the T-top and the rod holders, and that way, if I lost my footing, I could fly with the boat until I could get myself situated.
Can any amount of training ever prepare you for that particular peril yesterday?
Honestly, I think everything we do in law enforcement, we're trained for what we might have to do. And I will tell you that, you know, while the nerves, I don't know if it was nervousness or what on the first one, but it just didn't feel right. My gut said, let's not do the jump yet. There really was no anxiety in that jump. I calculated it. Ron had it perfectly set up. Mike was holding me. I took the jump. And it wasn't until afterwards that, you know, you get the adrenaline dump and say, wow, that was pretty neat. I'm glad we were able to do it without colliding with his boat, without me going overboard or between the boats, and it all worked out really well.
Did you think about the people that could be injured if you didn't do this?
Oh, that was absolutely in all of our calculations. You know, we tried the least riskiest by throwing the lines, and we got progressively thicker with the lines and longer, and when that didn't work, we decided we had to do something because this boat was going to hit somebody or someone at some point.
Looking back, when you're in that moment, the adrenaline's going, looking back at the body-worn camera, just seeing the video, what are your thoughts kind of going, like, did you have any, like, maybe I should have done that? Or?
Oh, no, I would do it again. I would do it again right now. When I looked at the video, I said, that looks pretty good.
Bringing the conversation back to boating safety and putting emphasis on that and boating etiquette, right? Mm-hmm. In the past couple of months, we've seen a lot of scenarios like this where people are just not playing by the rules on the water. Can you speak to that issue, and especially because this particular individual didn't have that kill switch and didn't have a life vest, which is like the most basic thing. Can we talk about that, especially in light of heading towards a more active summer month?
Well, Ron could probably speak better to that, but I will tell you, I have quite a few years. I used to be with the Florida Marine Patrol, and I used to be in the Marine Patrol here before handing it off to Ron and Michael. I will tell you, most people don't wear life jackets. I would probably say over 90% of the people don't wear that cutoff switch. Would you agree on that?
Yeah.
It's just an old school. You got to change your mentality. These guys wear their life jackets every time they go out. These guys wear the cutoff switch every time they go out. And it's just you have to change your way of thinking.
What kind of conversations have you had with the gentleman that went overboard? Did he say, "Hey, thanks, you kind of stepped in when I couldn't"? And
I never spoke with the gentleman. He was supposedly at the 10th Street boat ramp, and then he was transported by ambulance to the hospital. Ron went down and interviewed him, so I can hand it off to Ron here.
Yeah, he was very apologetic. He was very happy that he was alive and uninjured, just his left hand, and he was just thankful that it turned out the way it was. You know, he got
died very easy.
Yeah, he was aware of that. He got choked up when he was recounting the story. So yeah, he's aware. He's very lucky.
And you saved his boat.
Correct, undamaged.
Where is the boat at this point? What happens then? Is that part of an evidential thing?
No. We had no charges on him, no infractions. That was towed to the Sarah Bay Marina at the owner's request.
The question about the charges, that was going to be my next question. I know you'd mentioned that you cannot enforce certain things because of federal laws. If you were able to enforce certain things, in this scenario, would charges have been recommended because of the scenario that we're dealing with, just to kind of like help us understand how severe we're talking about?
Right. Yeah. No criminal charges whatsoever. He could have faced infractions of not wearing a emergency cutoff switch. Would probably be the most appropriate thing to have.
He would have been seen by the Coast Guard, though, right?
Right. But
they can't go back now and do it.
No.
So can you explain that challenge that you're facing there? Because what I'm hearing is there are rules and laws in place, but you're just not empowered to
Correct.
put some corrective measures to deter the people, the public. Help me understand that part.
So it would need to come from state legislators to get these laws passed for local and state agencies to be able to enforce. And to get back to your earlier question about this seems to be happening a lot. Ever since COVID, the recreational boaters has tripled out there, and not like on the street. There's only 2 of us out there in Marine Patrol for the whole Sarasota Bay. right? So we're outnumbered, and that's why all these incidents come to light. When we're out enforcing one area, you know, it's off the chain on a different area.
And there was also, at least the way I understand it, when you're driving the boat, you have to have your hand on the throttle. When you get thrown out, the throttle should have came down, so there was a malfunction in the boat. Right?
Well, he was able to knock it down about 2 miles an hour. He said that he was going 40, and then when we got up beside it the first time, we were doing 38. And I asked him what his speed was, and he said when he got thrown out, it was 38, and it matched up exactly. So.
Yeah, but shouldn't the throttle down automatically and start circling?
No. Those throttles stay stuck right where they're at. There's no. The only thing that would stop that would be the emergency cutoff switch, and that would cut all power to the motors.
But the circling is the way it's designed, right?
The circling is primarily because of the torque of the prop. The direction it spins, it has a tendency to turn that motor. A jet ski is designed to do circles so that it always comes back to you. But sometimes they'll do circle. Most of the time they'll do circles. Sometimes they'll just go straight. Back to your question. Contrary to most people's belief, Ron is only out there to gain voluntary compliance. If he can do it through education and just talking to somebody, he would much rather do that than write a ticket. I promise you there's one extra person today that we will never have to write a ticket to for not wearing that cutoff switch, and he'll probably be our best ambassador. You know, as they go to the legislatures and stuff like that to talk about it, he will tell everybody about how he nearly died, and if he had been wearing one of those cutoff switches, I'm telling you, he'll wear it for the rest of his life.
And now your message to the rest of the boating public. Again, we're heading into the heavy traffic months with the holiday, the summer breaks and all of that. And potentially we're going to have children also on some of these vessels. Can you speak to that? What should boaters be doing or not doing to make, I mean, because you yourself could have been killed in that scenario.
I would say just drive within your abilities. You know, was he pushing that boat as fast as it would go, or clearly he probably should have slowed down a little more when he was approaching the wake. Look around, know your surroundings, know that you're not the only one out there. Drive sober. So many people think, oh, I'm on the boat so I can drink. No, it's just like a car. You're responsible for a multitude of things and people, so don't drink and boat. Be a designated driver, and just be aware of your surroundings.
This guy's experience, no sign of impairment, nothing that would be kind of suspicious?
No, nothing at all.
Nothing?
Nope.
Do you think increased boater education could be warranted in this scenario?
I think in this particular incident, or just in general? Yeah, it's just, it's so hard to get people. We stop people on jet skis for not having their boater safety ID cards. I mean, all that would definitely help, but they make the choices to get out there, so.
For boaters, this video is going to be out there, people are going to see it, and you have those people that always kind of, well, I could do something like that. What's the message you have for boaters if they do see a vessel in distress, similar to this or in any other form of distress, what steps they should take?
Yeah. Although it looked pretty smooth on the video, we do train. We train very seriously. We take week-long courses and doing just what we did. It's a matter of just being familiar with your vessel and how the other vessels are going to, the outcome of that.